I don't know that we'll see a pass here as they go. A deep dive on the brakes. Here comes the 680 to the inside.
By 7 on the second. I can't believe what we just saw.
As real racing returns to racetracks all across the country, Formula One has returned in Austria. But for us here this afternoon, Circuit of the Americas is the site of Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League's 7th round of the season at America's Formula One track. Circuit of the Americas, the site of the United States Grand Prix, every August or October or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but as we
think October.
October. All right, I was right on my second try. But we're here tonight for Circuit of the Americas, what is usually a 3.5 mile 20-turn facility. Tonight, it's only going to be the 2.6 mile 18-turn west layout. So welcome again to Sim TV. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Finian DeCuna as we tackle Circuit of the Americas, a beautiful racetrack just outside of Austin, Texas. Population just under 1 million people in the metro area. We're ready to go racing tonight as soon as we finish up qualifying. So we'll head down to the racetrack here, Finian. I mentioned that we're at Circuit of the Americas, but one of the big changes this week is that we are not at the Grand Prix layout. We're actually at the much shorter west configuration. Usually you track on over all the way down to turn number 11 and 12, all the way down to the hairpins and return to the arena section. This week we're not doing that. We're stopping just shy in the middle of the S's, taking a hard left, heading through the shortcut and back on to finish the rest of the course. So that's what we're doing here this evening, Finian, and this is a very different layout and provides very different passing opportunities, and also means that different cars will be strong tonight with the GT3 class machinery. We've seen Z4s and Ferraris pretty much all season, but a couple Audis and the Mercedes of Francois Abreu have again infiltrated the running order, so really curious to see which one is the best of the best.
Yeah, and again, too, with cutting the track almost in half, a little bit more than half, we effectively eliminate the back straightaway. And again, that's probably, I would say, one of the better passing opportunities. Get a nice run out of the hairpin, and you're gonna use a little bit of slipstream down the end of the straightaway, get deep on the brakes, and make a pass. So that takes that out of the question. So I think this is definitely going to come into advantage, like the Audi and the Ferrari, which are definitely cars better in the corners. And by shortening the amount of straights, I think they should be the cars that come into their own. We'll have to see here as qualifying is wrapping up.
Thomas Layton returns to the series this week with a 129.992, which puts him on the top of the board for now. Colin Daner second, a 130.709. Evan Schickel is third. He's still out on track with a 130.788. Just shy of 0.8 of a second off the race leader, or the qualifying leader, Thomas Layton. Daniel Gross sits fourth, Chad Griffith in fifth, and Francois Abreu, Murphy Nichols, Dave Fitzgerald, Ryan Maloney, John Williman, and Scott Merker rounding out the rest of the field. Again, my name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Finian DeCuna for our 7th round of the DC region SCCA iRacing League season. If you're in the DC region and you're an SCCA member, there is a sweet deal going on for you right now. The HPDE and time trial crew is in need of a flag and communications help for their event on July 18th and 19th. If you're looking for a volunteering spot, you can do that and also get free lunch on both days and one free HPDE track day with an instructor. So the event's just 10 days away. You can register at www.wdcr-scca.org/time trials to get yourself the opportunity for a free track day. Let me tell you, Finian, you're going to want to do that. Get yourself out on track. So qualifying, just about a minute left here. As Evan Schickel and Ryan Maloney, the only two drivers left on track. And Ryan Maloney is in one of those very short BMW Z4s, but I've heard that these don't turn in very well here, Finian, with the twists and turns of the West layout. I think you want a car that's going to be a lot more responsive in the slower sections. I'm not sure what car that is, but I've heard it's not the Z4 tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I was thinking, maybe the Audi and the Ferrari are going to be better picks. I mean, just looking at the grid in general, the Audi and the Ferraris are more towards the top than the Mercedes and the BMW. That being said, the big exception is our provisional pole sitter, Thomas Layton, in the BMW himself, as well as Chad Griffith in the 8, and he's qualified in 5th at the moment in his BMW. So we'll see here if Maloney can try to muster up another time. I don't think he's going to have enough time to make it back to the line. So It's going to be, I think this is where he and Evan Shekel, as you can see in the 33, are going to end their runs.
It's a little buddy hop over the shortcut there, and you'll have a look right in between the two far sides of the course is this little cut through with a bit of a jump and a chicane. That is where a lot of the action is going to happen tonight, that's our shortcut to the arena section where we're going to be running our events this evening on the West Course, about a mile shorter than the long variation as we head down to the racetrack. What's our format tonight, Finian? Instead of a 1-hour endurance race, it's 2 25-minute sprint races this evening. So 2 opportunities to get yourself to the front. Let's roll through the starting grid here tonight. On the front row, it's going to be Thomas Layton's number 7 and Colin Daner in the number 24 Ferrari.
Yeah, moving on back to row number 2 is going to be Evan Schickel in 3rd, and the 33 machine, Daniel Groh, is going to line up in the 6th and 4th.
In 5th place on the inside of row number 3, Chad Griffith's BMW will start in the number 8 car, and Francois Abreu's big Mercedes AMG rolls off in 6th.
Back in row 4, it's going to be Murphy Nichols lining up in the 5 car. In 7th place, next to him in 8th, Dave Fitzgerald going to lap in the 91.
9th place, Ryan Maloney in the number 15 car on the inside, and John Williman starts in 10th in his number 12. And rounding out the field, I should say, will be Scott Merker's number 77 back in 11th as he takes the grid. Mark LeBance is here, but not on the racetrack at the moment, so it looks like that'll be it. It'll be 11 drivers going for glory here, an approximately 11-lap race in our event we've got going on here this evening. So field's going to roll off and head down to turn number 12, which is one of the hairpins here, which would normally be a very good passing zone. I'm not sure it's quite as good with that big long back straightaway kind of bisected by the cut through. We'll see if that's a good place to pass regardless here tonight. So through the very tight and twisty arena section, Finian, your thoughts on who's going to win this race? I think Thomas Layton's a great pick, but Colin Daner, great qualifying effort for him. He rolls off in 2nd.
Yeah, I'll just see again. He ran really well at Suzuka until he had his big off on the opening lap. So I think if he can keep it on the track, especially survive the first few opening laps, he could be one to potentially take the win away from Layton. We'll have to see.
Through the Carousel, a 3-corner complex, 3 separate apexes in this one turn. We head over to turn 18 on the full course, and 19 and 20, the last 2, which are 17 and 18 on this configuration. Field warming up their tires and getting ready to go racing for 2 short sprint races here this evening. Layton, Daner, Schickel, and Gross on the front 2 rows. Field mostly made up of BMW Z4s and a couple Ferraris, Audis, and Mercedes sprinkled about. The DC region SCCA iRacing League heads to Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, the site of the United States Grand Prix tonight. The DC region heads on down to Texas for some barbecue and for some race cars. Field rolls out of the final corner, Layton in command. Green flag flies, we're racing at COTA for the DC region SCCA iRacing League. Down into turn number 1, clean and tidy so far. You saw Layton hunting for the apex, found his way all the way to the side. Chad Griffith way out of line at the exit of the corner, and around goes Daniel Gross. That's for 4th place as they run side by side from him through the S's. Now a hard left turn into the cut-through section, and jumping over the curbs and the bump in the middle of that, a little bit unstable, is the number 5 of Murphy Nichols in one of the Audis.
Yeah, you see here pretty much everyone running straight over the curbs. That's the fastest way through that section. You can try to, run it normally, but you want to just run straight over those curbs. That being said, if you get too aggressive there, you're going to get a slowdown. As you look up at the lead, Colin Daner's not left lane. He's all over the back of that 7 BMW, trying to find a way around a leader. There you see also Evan Schickel in behind.
You can see out the left side window all the cars approaching turn number 15. Colin Daner with the crash test dummy helmet. Hopefully he won't have to use that tonight as he hunts down the race leader. Look at how good the Ferrari corners through the section, but he's going to wash out a little bit wider. The BMW seems a little bit stickier at high speed through turn 19 now to clip the curb on driver's left, and now the run down to turn number 20 to complete the first of about 11 laps here.
Yeah, I'm going to lane with a little bit more cleaner air. That car, you can see how glued he is to the track compared to some of the guys in behind, but to complete lap 1 here of 11.
And right behind you see Evan Schickel in another one of those Audis. And sneaking up on Daner, our front 3 sort of breaking away. Then it's a battle for 4th. Chad Griffith and Daniel Gross, who has a slowdown penalty, has to move over and let Griffith on by, Francois Abreu closing in the Mercedes. This car, the Mercedes, I think would be a very strong platform for the full course layout here at COTA. Today, though, on the West Course, I'm not sure it'll be super strong. He's got a couple cars breathing down his neck, including Murphy Nichols in the 5 and Ryan Maloney in the 15.
Yeah, I think this is definitely where the track change of land. Ooh, as Chad Griffith had a big off, and the S's is way out wide and major damage after hitting some of the FIA curbs.
Yeah, and you don't want to clip those big anti-cuts. He's going to cut through there and not create any more issues for himself. You see the damage on the right front of that car, slammed the curb, and that's all it takes. Behind him, John Williman is in the fence at the exit of the corner. He's going to pick up some left side damage. As we jump back up to 6, there's Murphy Nichols and Ryan Maloney. Maloney in the yellow and blue Turner-colored BMW, then Griffith trying to recover, and Dave Fitzgerald in the Tequila Patron Audi right now.
You can see how close the midfield is. Whoa, gets very close to Griffith here, down into a hairpin. Very close together there.
Fitzgerald trying to close in on... Whoa, he's going to run a little bit wide and use every little bit of the racetrack. Now throttle up and get around Griffith. I think he's got big-time damage on that number 8 car. He's going to drop all the way down to 9th place. He might have to come in and service that car if he wants to complete this race. Meanwhile, back up front, Leighton begins to pull away. Daner losing ground to the race leader. Schickel in 3rd still.
Daniel Gross down into pit road, as well as Chad Griffith in behind. Not sure why Gross is making a trip on down. Might have gotten a penalty. There is an incident limit, however, I doubt he got 17 incidents in only 2 laps.
Well, there's only 18 turns around the West layout, so I don't even think it'd be really difficult unless you're running off every single lap. But again, we might see the incident limit play into it a little bit here tonight. There's Evan Schickel trying to close in on 2nd place Colin Daner. And three different cars representing the front 3 here, Finn. And again, I typically don't like to say that the car is the big driving factor here, but all 3 of these drivers are very fast tonight. The car could make a difference this evening.
Yeah, definitely can, especially when you talk about genuine pace. It's definitely more the driver. Once you get into the kind of upper echelons of pace, that's where really I think the difference in cars is definitely going to start coming a bit into play here. And I'm curious to see how this battle's going to play out with Evan Schickel and Colin Daner. They seem more or less around the same pace. Leighton, however, seems to be pretty much in his own zip code.
Yeah, right now his last lap time was a 1:30.3. It's going to be hard to get lap time benchmarks for a lot of the drivers because not a lot of them are running legal lap times. They're not staying between the white lines there, but there's Evan Schickel. Nice and neat and tidy for him. We've lost 3 drivers to pit lane, and 2 of them have come back out on the racetrack. Griffith and Daniel Gross. Williman still in the pits as it stands. Murphy Nichols and Ryan Maloney going to have a battle for 5th here very shortly.
You're trying to get a nice run out of the final corner, and then you have pretty much the famous run up towards turn 1. However, I don't think it's going to be quite close enough to really make a dive. He's going to have a bit of a look, peel up to the left, going to tuck back in behind up the hill.
This corner is so deceivingly tight, and you get to the top of the track, widens out a ton, and you want to use all the racetrack there, Fenian, but it's actually better to stay farther left, and you're not actually using all that pavement, so you kind of get baited into entering that corner wider, but it's not necessarily any faster. Look at Maloney close in now to Murphy Nichols, and on the full course, he'd be setting up for a pass into the hairpin. Here he's going to have to be more patient with it and have a run down into 12 or maybe 13.
Here's another good corner. You can try to set up, has a bit of a tighter exit. However, it's not going to be enough. Nichols got good enough exit in his Audi here down at the end of the straight.
Some internet issues as well, probably making it a little bit harder on Ryan Maloney to kind of spot where he can beat the 5 car. Good run into the braking zone for the number 15 BMW. And now into the very tight and twisty section where I would think that the BMW would be better. But again, we heard reports that it wasn't turning in like drivers wanted. They were struggling to get the setups on these cars right, as now we head into the carousel area.
Flying through, and you can see Nichols make a big mistake, goes out so wide, and you see now Maloney able to make it up. So you got to be very careful. It's such a tricky corner.
Big slide.
To get the loose in the penultimate corner, goes flying off the track. Here comes Maloney up the inside, and we'll get the spot.
Yeah, that's also going to be a slowdown penalty for him as well. Chad Griffith heads back down pit lane. Still potential damage to repair on the number 8 BMW, but Nichols will give up 5th spot to Ryan Maloney. Out up front, though, Thomas Leighton making a show out of it right now. He has had no challengers up front. Colin Daner was on his tail for the first lap or 2, but has since dropped off now 3.2 seconds back.
Yeah, again, just was not really able to keep up the pace. Daner still got Schickel in behind to worry about. And actually, there's a lap or 2 Daniel Gross you can see up ahead. That's that Ferrari, that white and black Ferrari.
And this little chicane in the middle of the cut-through section, that's not much of a chicane. Oh, that's Evan Schickel around. He spun it at the exit of that chicane there, and we've seen a lot of drivers struggling with the car bunny hopping over that area. Let's see if that's what caused this issue for the number 33. Is I was just mentioning, you take it pretty straight. Let's have a look. Oh, he was already loose before he got into it, and it just bunny hopped as soon as it hit the curbing. Another look right there. This gets a little bit airborne.
Yeah, he got loose turning into the section right here. The car was just turning way too much up. You can see him kind of out of control right there. It has nowhere to go but flying over, and you can see then the car just completely upset and balanced. So this is the second Audi we've seen spin already.
Now behind him, Ryan Maloney, Murphy Nichols, 5th and 6th. This is the closest battle on the racetrack at the moment, the 15 and the 5.
Spot back, he seems a little bit loose out of the final corner. This straight also, again, really important to get a solid run. In fact, with this layout, this is now the longest straight on the track.
And it's not an easy one to use because of how tight that final corner is. It's not easy to get a run up into turn 1, and I don't even really like turn 1 that much as a passing zone because of how much it pinches you down at the apex. I'm much more of a fan of passing in the latter half of the racetrack at COTA. So it sort of, this layout sort of takes away a few passing zones, but certainly makes more opportunities for mistakes with this very tight cut-through section. As you see Murphy Nichols now hunting down Ryan Maloney, who got by him a few laps ago.
Both of them taking different lines. Maloney getting a little bit tighter to the entry of that chicane. Nichols a little bit more off on exit. All over the back of the 94, then into the tight arena section here. This is the most difficult part of the track, in my opinion.
Oh, he's going to charge the corners. He's using every bit of the brakes that he can as he tries to chase on down Ryan Maloney. I'm a little bit surprised that we're not seeing Maloney higher up in the field this week, but Nichols closing so much in the braking zones. He actually overslowed for turn 12 a little bit. Seems like he learned his lesson through the latter half of that section, but then just gave up a little bit around on corner exit. Now they're going to head through the carousel. I feel like the Audi is more stable through here. The mid-engined car likes to rotate a bit better than the front-engine one does, so Nichols should be able to close there through turn 19 now. The gap is now about 5 car lengths as they head into the final corner on the racetrack. BMW versus Audi, 2 German giants going at it for 5th place right now on track.
Yeah, not a whole lot of battles up ahead, really, especially after Evan Schickel had his little off. He's trying to chase down Francois Abreu again. Abreu, just by running consistently, has been getting some great finishes this season and is sitting on the podium spot.
Return number 1 running on board now with Murphy Nichols as he charges down the hill. Love this kind of passenger side shot of the cars as they head down into the S section and threading the needle between these big yellow curbs. We saw it take out a couple cars earlier, and you just want to nip at the little incline in the yellow with the front tires. Oh, whoa. Big slide for Nichols, and he's just unable to keep this car stable through that section.
Yeah, I think got loose just running over the curbs, and that cost him quite a bit of time. And again, the curbs are really tricky because obviously you're going to want to run over them, but you can't really rotate the car because, as you saw, you just get loose.
Yeah, and the Audi seem to have that sort of stability issue through the medium speed sections. They seem fine at high speed and fine at low speed, but those medium speed jumps are what they really struggle with. Back up front, Thomas Layton continues to lead the race in the number 7 BMW, then Colin Daner in 2nd. Nice livery on this car as well as he heads through last couple corners on the racetrack. Then Francois Abreu, who you mentioned a minute ago, who has been so consistent, just podium after podium after podium in the right place at the right time, it seems like every single week.
Yeah, it hasn't been from, outright pace. I'm not saying you're slow, granted. Francois, don't come after me. But it's just, again, he just runs really consistent. He runs a really solid pace and just runs it really consistently, makes very few errors. And he's been getting some solid finishes here. If he can hold off Evan for another 3 laps, 3 or 4 laps, he should be able to hold on to that 3rd spot.
Now to run down the hill into turn number 2, another high-speed area before you head into the S's, and this is, we see John Williman, he's gone around. This is over in turn 15. It's been a struggle for him today, especially in the slower sections. Let's have a look here at how he got himself in this position. Like just a slow speed spin for the number 12. Here's another look. This gets on the brakes, and the car just steps out, gets behind in the steering, and locks it up, and it just sends it more sideways. Battle for 5th place, Murphy Nichols and Maloney. Nichols has gotten back by him.
Yeah, I have a feeling this might have been a mistake from Maloney, potentially.
Last time by, his time was recorded as a 1:32.2, so I wonder if it was even last lap. Oh, no, I think it was a slowdown penalty through the cut through. Here's a look.
Oh, yeah, right there, I think is where he got it. On the entry, I think he took quite a bit of curb there.
Then he had to pull over and let 5 car on by. So they resume their battle, this time Maloney chasing. And we'll check back in on this if it spices back up again. You see Nichols popping out a little bit at the exit of turn 19. That will get you a slowdown penalty, so you have to be careful cracking out in that particular corner. This is the closest battle on the racetrack, so we will stay there. Dave Fitzgerald lurking in the background in the 91. He started his night in 8th. He's gained 1 spot into 7th, running consistently. Just doesn't have a whole lot of pace here this evening, but just trying to stay out of trouble. It's worked for Francois Abreu. No reason why it couldn't work. You see Nichols go wide, and Maloney unable to capitalize on it just yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was him just missing the apex. I think he kind of actually definitely was that. He was missing by a country mile. This is when ended up on the brakes too late. But was able to use the extra pavement to his advantage to try to keep back on the track. So we'll still stay ahead of Maloney here through the cut through. And Maloney again took a really large amount of curb. He's got to be careful not to get another slowdown.
It's so interesting to see the different lines as they head through the cut through section.
He did. You see him slowing around right there trying to go at the time.
Let's go back and have another look here. He's been getting himself penalties. Is that on the entry here, Finney? Let's have a look.
Yeah,
oh, right there.
Look at that.
And that's definitely a pretty sizable chunk taken out of the apex of that corner. Again, I think the best view of it was probably from up above here. And you're just getting a little bit too greedy, and the track limits here are not playing around. You see him just turn in a little bit too soon. He's got all 4 tires to the inside of the white line. Curbing doesn't count. And Maloney did give himself another slowdown, so he'll drop 1.3 seconds behind Murphy Nichols and make that challenge a little bit harder. Meanwhile, Evan Schickel is chasing down Francois Abreu and is closing in on him as they run up the front straight.
2 laps to go for everyone on the field. On the track. Wrong sport.
Wrong sport.
Schickel's trying to chase down Abreu, as you were saying, and he's been doing a really good job just running his own pace. But now he's got to defend from this Audi of Schickel in behind.
Run into the S's, and this is such a crucial section to string together. A good run so far for Abreu, but Schickel just a little bit more efficient through there so far. Into the cut through. See that Audi looks so unstable when it gets airborne like that. I'm not sure if it's sprung more stiffly than the Mercedes, or if it just doesn't handle those bumps as well. But every time it lands, you can watch the rear end of that thing bunny hop, where the Mercedes is very planted through that section.
Yeah, I think that just has to do a bit to do with setup and a bit to do with car, I think, with the way these guys are running. But Schickel getting quite a bit here. He's all over the back of Abreu, and this is going to be really hard. Now, where does he make that pass?
See the headlights flashing on the number 33 car as they head through the carousel, the triple apex right-hander. Again, the Audi's so good for these high-speed sections.
Yeah, got a huge amount of time in order to go try to have a look up the penultimate corner. Makes Abreu go wide, however, and here comes Schickel trying to get a good exit. Can't quite get it done into the final corner. Going to get deep on the brakes to the inside.
And through goes Evan Schickel, back to a podium spot. Abreu has to give it up. The slightest of mistakes as Merker goes around at the end of the S's. Big-time damage on the front of that car. Only leads you to believe that there has been a fairly major impact, potentially with one of the curbs here. Oh yeah, bam. Slams it. Evan Schickel's had an issue. Evan Schickel in the 33 had just gotten by Francois Abreu. What happened here? Went down into turn 1. Oh, there was a touch. There was a touch there between Schickel and Abreu. Let's look from up above. They get down into turn number 1. Abreu fills the hole and up the inside, kind of shoves it, gets elbows out there and pushes back by. A little bit naughty there.
Yeah, that's a classic turn one pass at COTA. The way that turns configure is done for exactly that reason.
And Schickel almost got to the back of Abreu, so the elbows are out there. Maybe a bit angry between those two drivers. Thomas Layton out up front. He's about to collect a checkered flag, but the battle is for third. It was Schickel that got by Abreu with a mistake in turn 18. And then Abreu fought his way back with a sharp jab on the side of that Audi into turn number 1. Got his way back to the podium spot, but he's not clear just yet. Up in front, Thomas Layton by almost 11 seconds has dominated this race from the drop of the green flag. He's going to have to do it again later in race number 2, but he picks up the checkered flag in race number 1. Back in 3rd place, though, Abreu and Schickel all over each other for the podium spot. Here comes Schickel with a big drive out of turn 19, but a slide for the rear tires. He can't get the grip down. Now to turn number 20, Abreu turns in. Schickel gets a great run out of the final corner. He runs way off the racetrack, but he can't get there. And it looks like Francois Abreu will pick up a podium by 0.2 of a second.
How about that? I'm still amazed that Abreu made that move down into turn 1. He's typically he's a more cautious driver. Usually doesn't really make dives up the inside like that, but a great move. It paid off. And he left the podium.
There's a replay of the 33 trying to carry every little bit of speed that he could. And I do think that Abreu has kind of saved up his good boy points in the past. And I think he used up a couple of them tonight. So he's played fair in the past, and that might have been a little bit naughty. I think it might have been worth him using. So Leighton, Daner, Abreu, Schickel, Nichols, Maloney, Fitzgerald, Gross, Merker, Williman, and Griffith, your finishers in this race as we prepare for our second race of the evening. There are your results. Thomas Leighton, the winner of that race. Well, that was something.
Indeed it was, and guess what? We got to do it all over again.
I'm glad we get to do it all over again. So Daner, really impressive. I wonder if he can get by Thomas Leighton, if he could be able to run away with some clean air. And Abreu and Schickel are going to be starting on row number 2. I'm really curious to see if those drivers will get their own elbows out when it comes to the green flag of the second race of the evening. So warm up here for a couple minutes. We'll take a very quick break just to take a breath and a drink of water before we return for race number 2. Stay with us. Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League put on a heck of a show in its first of 2 races here this evening at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And we get to do it all over again for another 11-lap race. Welcome back to Sim TV. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Finney and DeCuna as we're just finishing up warm-up for race number 2 of the night. If you want to watch live timing and scoring, you can head to simtvbroadcasting.com/timing to get everything in real time. So, before we get rolling for race number 2, the big surprise is Colin Daner, a solid second-place run in the number 24 car. I'm pretty impressed with this drive for the number 24 tonight. Do you think he can do any better in the second race?
I mean, I would hope that he can, because I'm sure really none of these guys in the field, except for the man himself, Lane, wants to see him in victory lane. So I'll have to see. I think if Daner wants to try to get ahead of Lane, he needs to do it on the opening lap when they're close together. Because once Lane, I think, gets out in front and gets some clean air to work with, he's going to pretty much take off like a rocket ship, and no one's going to see him again. So I think Daner might be having to look at making a bold move, kind of like what we saw with Francois Abreu down at turn 1.
Another big topic of the first race of the evening was those big yellow anti-cut curbs destroying a handful of cars. Did drivers learn anything there the first time, or is it just something that it's impossible to avoid because the slightest mistake will take you offline?
Yeah, I think, I would imagine that they had to learn. And again, this is this one makes these turns so tricky. It's very much a rhythm section. It's similar to the S's at Suzuka where we had last week. If you mess up one part, you're gonna mess with the entire section. And the big difference then between COTA and Suzuka doesn't have those anti-cut curves on the inside that you just completely destroy if you make a mistake, like we saw with Chad Griffith, and we've seen a lot of damaged cars due to hitting those anti-cut curbs.
And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, all in the path of where you want to be, the shortest way around all the corners. So trouble there. Also, another topic of discussion was the Audis and how unstable they seemed over this cut-through section. You can actually see the rubbered-in parts of the racetrack where the cars have been bottoming out. And the Audis in particular seem to be the most unstable over that section. The Mercedes and Ferraris seem very planted. The BMWs don't look like they're bothered by it too much either. But I think the Audis are better in some of the fast sections, the medium and slow speed sections, so I think you're better off with one of the other cars.
And we'll see here if they learn anything, really, if the driver could learn anything. That was a great run, to get a dress rehearsal, at least, if anything, for these drivers through race 1. We'll see now if it pays off in race 2.
So lining up for our second race and final race of the evening. Again, it'll be another 11-lap event, about 16 minutes in length from start to finish. And you can see right there the very tall, beautiful spectator tower here at Circuit of the Americas. They probably call it something. I don't know what they call it. You know what it's called? You're supposed to be the Formula One expert here, Finian. I don't know what you're doing over there.
You should not assume that I'm the...
What do I pay you for?
Talk.
All right, so let's head down to the racetrack. Starting lineup on the left-hand side of the screen.
It's called just the observation tower.
Okay, good to know. Leighton, Daner, Bruce, Schickel, Nichols, your top 5. Then Maloney, Fitzgerald, Gross, Williman, Merker, Griffith. The rest of your running order as we head towards the green flag for our second race of the evening.
Yeah, we have also of note lost Ryan Maloney and Merker. They both left the session. Not exactly sure why, so we're going to be down 2 cars.
So as we head through the arena section, saw a couple spins and slides down here. I think one of the things that GT3 cars struggle with in particular is when you get down to these very slow speeds and you're making corners at 30, 40 miles an hour, you have to harness basically 500 horsepower without any downforce through here. And that's a very difficult task, especially in the torquier cars like the Z4 and the Mercedes.
It takes a lot of throttle management, and even through the S's here, or I guess you can see the Austin 360 amphitheater. Nice.
Yes.
Nice little plug there, the camera being, of course, on the opposite side of the corner. But yeah, and then you talk about the carousel here, really great corner on, in my opinion. Fantastic stuff to see these guys just flying through. And we saw again the Audis too, struggling a bit with trying to actually I should say the opposite. The Audis are doing pretty well through here. The BMWs and the Mercedes struggling a bit to navigate through.
Pace car going to peel off. It'll be another 11-lap race here to round out round number 7 of the 2020 DC Region SCCA iRacing League. Field pulls out of turn number 20, and Leighton's going to fire up green flag back in the air for race number 2 at COTA. And he pulls away, and Colin Daner gets a pretty solid start. Brew and Schickel going to reignite their fight from race number 1 into turn number 1. Brew's going to go a little bit defensive into the first corner. Schickel walked out and blocked out from behind. Going to cross over to drivers left behind him. Murphy Nichols and Dave Fitzgerald fighting for 5th as he run down the hill into turn number 2.
Here's what Schickel's going to do here. He's going to be, we're going to see some argy-bargy between these two guys after hitting each other into turn 1. Ooh, as Schickel takes the anti-cut curb, car goes flying in the air. Looks like he's okay.
Big crash for John Williman. He's drilled the barrier way off course, and he's got big-time damage on that car. Here's a look. Just spins and flies off the track and contacts hard those plastic barriers at the side of the racetrack. So Williman, again, struggles for him as we head back up into the midfield. Schickel to 4th, Nichols in 5th, Fitzgerald, whoa, he gets into Nichols and turns him around. They both spin, and Chad Griffith in the 8 car is nowhere to go, and neither does Daniel Gross, and they're going to get into trouble there as they spin back around, and Fitzgerald with a big mistake. It's cost a couple of them some time, including Evan Schickel. Big damage to the 33 as well.
Oh man, a lot of the Audi struggling, and wow, he had an off. He just got too much curb on his off, but here looking at Fitzgerald, you're going to see him slam on the brakes. He's going to be out of control flying into the corner.
Yeah, just drills the back of Murphy Nichols, and you see the 6th of Daniel Gross, nowhere to go. He gets in contact, and we're going to go up to find Evan Schickel. He was already off all on his own in a completely separate incident. He was to the inside of Rue, tried to cut the corner and just got the curb too much.
too much curb pull tires, recipe for disaster, and unfortunately for Schickel, gonna damage his car significantly early on.
You see the wing damaged left rear. That's going to significantly impact the performance of this car.
Jack Griffith and Daniel Gross going at it for 4th place. A little bit of contact between these two cars into turn 1.
I don't think anybody's waiting around anymore. Battles are out and on. Whoa, Gross got a really late turn into the first corner. You see how much time he's going to lose in relation to Griffith because he just messed up that first sequence. As you mentioned, Finian, you got to string them together. If you mess up one, you mess them all up.
It's amazing you did a great job getting back on target with them because it's really hard. Once you mess up a corner, you have to kind of realign yourself.
Yeah, he also big cut through the apex of the center right there. You see how much he had cut the corner. That was a full-on cut and enough to get him a slowdown penalty, so he had to give up more time to Chad Griffith. Up front, Thomas Layton, Daner, and Brew, your top 3, with a 5-second gap back to Griffith. Behind Daniel Gross, though, it's getting aggressive. Nichols and Schickel. And Nichols got significantly less damage than Schickel. Just a little bit of a dent on the rear. He's going to run out wide, and Schickel's going to take a look to driver's left.
I'm curious how much that wing damage is really affecting you, because again, that's your rear downforce right there. Oh, and you can see you're already tail happy in that car.
And unable to carry the corner speed that Murphy Nichols was through the carousel into turn number 19 now. Gets a much better exit than the 5 car. Going to look out. Driver's left. No, he'll stay in line here as they head into the final turn. See in the background John Williman with the bent up wing as well, but the battle right now is for 6th. Nichols in the 5 and the 33 of Evan Schickel.
Yeah, here's Schickel's going to try to get this back to Tix. Heaping him out of curb there through turn 1, trying to set up a pass on the Audi up ahead of him.
Now stringing through the S's at over 110 miles an hour and just delicately balancing the best you can through here. And then slamming on the brakes hard left as they head for the cut through.
It is so hard to brake for that corner because the car is still going up and over the curb. When you start braking, it is really hard to get down on the binders. You can see for Schickel too, speaking of which, missed the braking point a little bit in that corner there.
Race cars are really good at doing one thing at a time. You want to brake? They're really good at braking if you do it in a straight line. You want to turn? They're really good at that if you're not braking. The problem is in that corner, as you enter the cut through, you have to do basically everything at once as Nichols runs wide and Schickel goes on through with the tail sweeping out behind him.
Yeah, you're talking about right there, that corner especially too. It's one of those corners where you're turning and braking. It's really hard to do both things at the same time.
So Schickel moves his way back up into 6th place. Has not been the best of nights for the number 33. Up front, Thomas Layton continues his dominance. It has been an absolute show of force by the number 7 as he enters turn number 1 to start lap number 4. Colin Daner's had a really solid night, 2nd in race 1. It looks like he'll be there in race number 2, but Francois Abreu was 0.7 of a second faster last time by. Maybe he's found something.
Yeah, let's see if Abreu can give a pace or if Daner's going to be that much off the pace of his 24 Ferrari. So, and he's actually been consistent closing up, especially through these S's here. I was kind of looking at them, and it's made up some time. So Abreu looking to not just settle for 3rd, but maybe for 2nd here.
Oh, big cut over the apex of the cut through, and looks like he got away with it. It's only 1.2 seconds behind Dana right now as they head through turn number 12. Briefly jumping back to Schickel and Murphy Nichols. Still 0.7 of a second there, and Nichols has been miraculously finding himself unable to break away from anybody. As you see, Evan Schickel now with a slowdown penalty. That will let Nichols get on by. This is what I'm saying. It seems like Nichols has had some of the best fights here tonight because he's been surrounded by people that keep cutting the corners and having to give their spots back up to him. And it just makes for some very entertaining fights.
Yeah, it looks like Schickel got that on the entry of the cut through. So, again, that's been catching a lot of cars off guard with taking just too much curb and costing so much. So he's going to be back at square one here. You can see him trying to get a great run through the carousel, and he does. But
the headlight on that thing. The headlight, the bulbs are knocked back.
Oh, Nichols up ahead going to get loose, and Schickel with the correction going to just avoid him.
Whew. That was really dicey there for a second. I was going to mention on the 33, it's hard to see with all the glare from this angle, but the headlight bulbs are knocked inside the headlight. I didn't know that could happen. The interesting amount of damage there, but Nichols had a sketchy moment there through 19, had to give that spot back up. That was for 6th into turn 1, now nose to tail.
definitely going to be a factor for the second place. He caught up quite a bit to Daner. He is now looking to be a factor.
It was about a half a second back, now 9/10 back. Watching the 6th place drivers as they go through the cut through again to see if any drama happened there. But you're right, Abreu has been closing in an 0.8 of a second gain on Daner last time through. Happiest closing.
Yeah, I'm curious what's this change in form, because I would have thought that Daner was quicker than Abreu based on the pace in race number 1, but not sure what's happened with Daner, or if something happened with Abreu because he's found, figured something out and is just running a lot faster.
Abreu definitely has picked up pace. I'm not sure how much has been lost from the 24, but look at the dive on the brakes. That seems where Francois is gaining a bunch of time is on the brakes here. And the conditions, I don't remember exactly what they were, but I feel like they're pretty similar to what we had in race number 1, so I don't see how that would have changed a whole lot. Either way, Abreu is really going for P2 here and about to outrace Daner if he can keep going. About 5 laps to go here.
Here's the interesting thing. So the fastest lap that Daner ran in race 1 was a 31.1. His fastest lap so far in the feature was a 31.9.
That's a big drop-off. Not exactly sure what it could have led to that, but yeah, either way, he's losing ground to Abreu, and he's going to have to get defensive here pretty shortly as they head for the cut-through. You can generally tell how desperate drivers are getting by how much they're willing to cut the corner. Abreu did take a big chunk. Oh, did he get a slowdown? I'm not sure if he did, but got aggressive there on the inside curve at the exit. Now 0.8 of a second, only 4 or 5 car lengths between them as they head into 13.
Yeah, this is where he's really struggling. He's not able to keep the car as close to the apex as he would like compared to Daner up ahead.
Well, this front-engine rear-wheel drive platform is one of the biggest and heaviest cars in GT3 racing. And it's definitely not the most agile car, but look how much more Daner was tracking out of the Carousel. It seems like he was entering that corner super wide. Typically you stay very tight right, but he let the car drift out and kind of late apex and treated the entire corner as one. And he did end up losing a little bit of time, so I'm not convinced that was the most efficient way to go through that corner, but he must be fighting some handling issues in that car as we hit lap number 7 of 11.
Yeah, I do see some slight left front damage to Daner's machine. It's very hard to tell, but the splitter and also the fender work on that car is a little bit dented.
Actually see the scraping on this left front area here, and that just tells me that he might have had an issue with the curb in the S's, and that could certainly throw off the steering and other parts of the suspension that could make this significantly less entertaining for him to be driving and more of a chore.
Yeah, I found it. He did it on lap 3. He just absolutely nailed one of the curbs. So I can't imagine he's lost that much pace from it, but it could be. Might have messed up something in suspension, but again, Abreu just all over the back wheel. The only thing for Abreu, especially in this section right here, he loses so much time and spends the rest of the lap trying to make it back up on Daner.
Yeah, and even if you don't completely knock something out of the suspension and don't, bend a tie rod or something, if you make any sort of damage to that car, it might just make the car unstable. It doesn't necessarily knock your steering out of whack. It just might make the car a little bit sketchier or maybe lose some responsiveness in the turn-in. But either way, for Daner, I think he's damaged that car in some capacity because, as you noted, it was early in the race where the tire and brake pressures or brake temps weren't up to par just yet, so it'd be very easy to hurt that performance of the car before he was able to run a good competitive lap time and match his race 1 pace. So I do think it's affecting him, I'm just not sure to what degree. But I can tell you, Thomas Layton has had no performance degradation in that Z4 tonight. He has led every single lap so far, continues to be the quickest car on the racetrack. For second place, though, it's going to get really interesting as we wind down the last couple laps.
Yeah, absolutely. And trying to look. Also, another battle starting to brew in behind these drivers is Chad Griffith and Deacon Gross there. Getting closer and closer to a battle as Gross had a little bit of a poor run through turn 1.
Remember, the 6 car didn't have the greatest of races in race 1, damaged his car early, came to pit lane, and never really recovered. We'll keep our eye on this dogfight between the BMW and Ferrari. You see Griffith a little bit lazy with the turn-in to get himself into the shortcut, and look how much Daniel Gross closes. That Ferrari just eats up that cut-through section in a way that the BMW in front just did not.
Yeah, even Gross through the S's ran really well. And you can see he's hounding Griffith. He made up a lot of time in the last half a lap.
Again, gaining on the braking, right up to the rear bumper of Griffith. Oh, he saw an opportunity, almost chucked the car down the inside into turn 15. Thought better of it, though.
Yeah, relatively poor exit out of the corner right there, and then through the carousel they go. And a much tighter line for that Ferrari at the beginning. However, on exit, Griffith of a more tighter line. Another late apex.
Oh, Griffith a little bit hot through 19. He's going to track out. That could be a slowdown there if you don't give up the time enough.
I feel like that might have been. You can get almost forgiven by the corner cutting gods, if you will, if you bring it right back onto the track. But if you stray out too far, it'll definitely bop you for something. And it looks like Griffith's going to get away with it.
Seems like he did get away with it. Let's jump back up to second. Daner and Francois Abreu as they head to the S's. Abreu has kind of steadied the gap out at 0.7 of a second. He's been unable to close any more, though. I think Daner's was feeling the pressure and picked up the pace just a little bit.
Back on the battle with Griffith and Gross. Griffith made a bit of a mistake through turn 1, and Gross hounding him now through the S's. He's been really close. Gonna almost have a look through the cut through.
This is where you're going to see Gross close so much on the braking zone. And right up to the back of the 8 car, but he loses in the acceleration zone a little bit more. Oh, Griffith's going to run way wide. Gross is going to tuck it down hard left, leaves him plenty of space on corner exit. But Griffith's going to have the inside lane and make Gross go around the outside. But the Ferrari going to just keep even with him. Now Griffith re-clears him, but Gross has a run into 15. Wants to stick the car up the inside, but it's just a little bit too much to ask of that car right now.
It is really tempting to make a move like that. We see time and time again cars trying to make that move, and also time and time again cars wrecking making that move. So you got to be very careful through that section and just wait for the right opportunity to strike.
It's just a pinch point is what it is. It's just like turn number 1. You can make a pass down there, but it's typically going to involve one of your competitors going around for a spin and probably someone getting crossed off the Christmas card list down there. So see Griffith a little slow out of turn number 20 and the run up the front straightaway. And Gross is closing. He's been so much better on the brakes that we're going to stay on board with him here as we hit 2 laps to go. And we'll see how much he can close into the turn 1 braking zone. Look at that, 3-4 car lengths eaten away as they head into turn 1.
Yeah, well, then you see now Griffith going to get a little bit of that back on exit, and Gross going to have to try to make that up. But Gross has been really good through the S's. Griffith, as you were saying earlier, was a little bit lazy on his apexes.
Car just, again, we heard earlier, struggling with turn in. And this is where it would hurt you, is in the S's, this transient back and forth maneuvering that the car might get behind even if your steering inputs are not. Gross maintaining a 0.4 of a second differential between him and the 4th place 8 car, who is recovering from damage that he received in the first race of the evening and had to pit for that. These two continue to scrap for 4th. Great crossover there by Daniel Gross, but nowhere to go with it unless he can clear. And he does. Gross up to 4th.
Yeah, squeeze him out of line, so he's going to take the spot here. We'll see if Griffith has anything to say or fight back with here as they come to collect the white flag next time by.
Chickle's gone around in turn number 15 as the white flag does fly for race leader Thomas Layton, and Chickle just, again, slow speed instability on the Audi and just loops it around. So we go back up to 2nd place because now Daner has 1 more lap, 2.6 miles to hang on to 2nd place. Meanwhile, for 4th, here comes Griffith back up the inside of Daniel Gross. Can't quite get the power down enough, though.
Yeah, had a great move into that final corner and nowhere to go. Has a bit of a run heading down towards turn 1. You can see that BMW starting to close in, going to have a little bit of a peak. That was a really good chance, but Gross going to send it to try to cut him off.
Murphy Nichols has gone around in the background over at the exit of turn number 20. Let's briefly check on how he got himself in this situation before we jump back up to the battle for 2nd, because it's gotten close. 0.3 of a second now. Nichols just charged the corner a bit too much. He lost the nose. Back to the 2nd place fight. Daner and Francois Abreu nose to tail for 2nd.
Yeah, Abreu a little bit got to get sideways coming out of the cut through, so he lost a little bit of time there, but he's now got 1 more shot to try to really get back up through Daner.
And then 4th place, they head through turn number 12. Gross and Griffith still 0.5 second between them. That's going to be a fight all the way back to the checkers. But speaking of the checkers, Thomas Layton has been rock solid all evening long. He led all 22 laps that we ran tonight at COTA. Thomas Layton might not be Formula 1, but it's certainly at the site of the United States Grand Prix, and Thomas Layton brings it home as the race winner in both races tonight. Meanwhile, for 2nd, Colin Daner, youngster with Couple podiums on his belt will come on through and collect his second of the night. Second place for him. Brew, another third place run for him as we jump back to fourth. Daniel Gross and Chad Griffith, they've had an excellent battle all race long. Checkered flag for them. Gross will take home fourth. Griffith in fifth. Evan Schickel, who spun late in the going, he will come home in sixth place. John Willeman fighting back from early crash down in the S's section. He's going to be coming home a lonely seventh. Murphy Nichols, but a spin last lap in this corner. You see him run wide again at 19. Gonna head for the pit lane and finish there. Meanwhile, Dave Fitzgerald, he also had a spin a couple laps ago, and he's gonna bring it home down in ninth place, the final driver in the field. With that, let's have a look here at our race results. At the top of the order, Thomas Layton, again, with two very solid races, but Colin Daner, the impressive one tonight.
Yeah, did a really solid job. Unfortunate to see Brew have a chance of really getting to Daner. He got close on many occasions, wasn't quite able to make that pass. We also saw a great battle between Gross and Griffith.
And Chad Griffith was scored in seventh. I'm not sure if he had a post-race penalty, potentially.
Yeah, I think what happened is I was a bit concerned with this. In the penultimate corner, he ran off wide, trying to throw a little bit of a Hail Mary at the end of that race. And I was concerned because when he ran pretty wide, I was concerned if he had a time penalty. And if you come, you can see right there on screen, ran wide. If you don't give up that time penalty before you get back to the line, you're going to get a massive time penalty at the end of the race.
Yeah, here's another look at it. It was chasing the driver in front of him. Daniel Gross, you see him run out wide, and typically they'll give you a little bit of space before they give you the penalty, but he just ran beyond the turf, and that's just too far. Picked himself up a post-race time penalty, will put him all the way down and in seventh place. So Griffith not going to get the finish he probably deserved, but that's the price of business here at Circuit of the Americas with the layout the way it is. Let's pull in Tom Layton here, Finney. Let's have a talk with our race winner. Hey, Tom, it's Kyle from SimTV. Got a copy?
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, well, tonight was a really, really good night for you. Both races over a 10-second gap back to second place, Colin Daner. It seemed like kind of business as usual for you, but walk us through your evening and racing here at Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, thanks. I'm a big fan of the track. I basically just found that I just have to run consistent laps, and I switched to the BMW this week. That helps me do that. It's a little bit more stable. I've had issues with the Ferrari the last 2 weeks in a row, just spinning randomly over exit curbs. So the BMW handled that a little bit better, and just tried to be consistent as much as I could.
Tonight we ran the West layout of Circuit of the Americas, which, you know, takes away, I think it takes away a passing zone or two, but it certainly makes the track a bit more rhythmic as you kind of approach the same sections over and over again. Do you prefer this layout to the full course, or do you like the full course and having those long straightaways that take a breath?
Yeah, there's really not much of a place to get a breath. I mean, this is a little bit more exhausting than the long course, but I think with only having about a dozen people or so, it's probably better to just run the short course. And I think it was a nice way to mix things up. All
right, Tom Layton, 2 starts, 2 wins tonight at Circuit of the Americas. We'll see you next week, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Move on now to Francois Abreu, who pulled in 2 third-place finishes here tonight. Francois, it's been excellent to watch you week after week pulling in these podiums. Tonight you had to work pretty hard for it, though. Walk us through both your races tonight, and especially that battle you had at the end of race number 1.
Yeah, so race number 1 didn't qualify really well. So I was fortunate to have people in front of me didn't really mistake. The only strength that I have for me today was I don't make much mistake on that track like the previous track, so I kept consistent. And at the end, even Chico on the first race did a little mistake. I passed him. We had a good battle. I had to force my way in on the last lap, so maybe it was a little bit too much. But the first race finished really, really close. Even was a little bit faster than me usually, but this time it worked out. So yeah, a little bit of luck on the first race because of the qualifying. The second race was a good battle with Colin. Really early on, I lost even behind me, so I didn't have to worry about that. And my goal was either on the last lap, I can be 2 tenths behind Colin and try to pass him in turn one, which the only place is where you can really pass cleanly. I tried to keep pressure on him. Certain section I was a little bit faster, but he didn't crack. He kept it. I kept on doing little mistake here and there, so a little breather now and then for him. But he didn't crack, so good job for him, and I'm pretty happy. Third place. It's a small crowd, but I think I'm driving better and better, and really consistent. That's my main goal, not making any mistake. So that was pretty happy for tonight again.
Really, really good runs there tonight, Francois. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for talking to us, and congratulations on 2 really, really good finishes tonight.
Very much, guys.
On now to Colin Daner, who brought it home in second place in both races. And Colin, we're looking back at the replay here of lap number 3 and race number 2, where you slammed the apex curb and destroyed the left front of your car. Was that affecting the handling of that car because you had Francois Abreu kind of breathing down your neck in that second race? All right, I don't know what's going on there, but I guess we'll have to try that again here in a minute. But Finney, I do want to bring you back in for a second here as we watch this. This is the impact that you were talking about when we talked about the impact in lap number 3 for Colin Daner. And you know, this is the size of impact that you would typically expect to associate with some sort of suspension damage as you see him turn in here a little early.
Yeah, and again, you're talking about him just turning just a little bit, just a hair early. If you turned in a millisecond later, you would have been fine, but hey, you see him just absolutely clobber the curb. Could have been a lot worse. Was still able to hold on for another solid second place finish, but I don't think quite where he might have wanted to be.
All right, let's try this one more time. Hey, Colin, you got a copy? Doesn't look like it. So that's going to be it for tonight, I guess, as we head on, hopefully, to next week. Again, the car counts have not been quite where the league wants them to be because everyone's kind of returning to the real racetrack here, Finney. And so we're not exactly sure what is going to be going on here the next couple weeks, but just stay tuned. We also have a really exciting announcement. Tomorrow morning, actually, at 11:20 Eastern, we're going to have our first ever Formula racing on SimTV, F3 at 11:20, and then at high noon, it's going to be qualifying elimination style. And then a Formula One event at Road America tomorrow morning or afternoon. Going to be amazing to watch. We're going to make sure that you're tuned in for that because they're running teams of 2 and everything. It's going to be a blast to watch. Yeah. So I highly recommend tuning in tomorrow at noon for that.
Yeah, doing the whole 9 yards. They're saying elimination style qualifying. Teams of 2 drivers are going to be running the same livery. There's also a feeder series, which actually does serve as a feeder series for all the drivers trying to get into the F1 series. They're going to be running the Dallara F3 car, which has been fantastic to watch. And they got 30 guys lined up for that series as well. So it's going to be some fantastic racing at Elkhart Lake Road America tomorrow for the United States Grand Prix.
I think we got Ryan Daner this time, so we'll give one more try here. Hey, Ryan, you got a copy? Like it, so I have to have him sort that out. But again, tomorrow at noon, Formula One Road America on SimTV, the first time ever, we're going to get to watch the Williams FW31 go for, I don't know how many laps it is, but it's going to be enough, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The elimination format qualifying is also going to be extraordinarily exciting. So they're going to run Q1, Q2, Q3, knockout drivers each round. Going to be a lot of fun. Join us tomorrow at noon for the first ever Formula One race on SimTV. We'll see you there. Have a good night.